So government can no longer force anyone into state quarantine. The High Court in Pretoria has ruled that people who can self-isolate at home must be allowed to do so. But if quarantine is broken, they can then be forced into a state facility. The case was brought by rights group AfriForum against Cooperative Governance Minister Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Let's get you more on that. I'm joined by AfriForum's Monique Tout. Thank you very much, Monique, for joining us. Are you satisfied with the decision by the court?
Yes, AfriForum achieved a victory in the High Court in Pretoria, and the judge granted our urgent application to declare the regulations that were aimed at putting everyone who tested positive for COVID-19 under compulsory state quarantine invalid. The department failed to oppose AfriForum's application, and the minister agreed that AfriForum's application should be made in order of the court, which determines that the regulations should be read in such a manner that people who are able to effectively self-isolate are allowed to do so.
A little bit earlier on, we spoke to the Deputy Health Minister, Mr. Joe Phaahla, and this is what he had to say. Let's take a look, listen.
I don't even understand why AfriForum had to go to court to get that, because that's our policy. That's our policy in terms of dealing with COVID-19. Firstly, let me just take you backwards in terms of our system. If you are a contact of a positive, somebody who has tested positive, you have to self-isolate in your own facility if you can. If not, then we can offer a facility where you can be quarantined while waiting for the results as a contact. Once you test positive, now it depends on the doctor. It's between the patient and the doctor and health department as a supervisor. If, as a patient, you test positive, but you have got no symptoms, it's simply that you are a contact, and then you have also tested positive, or you have very, very mild symptoms, and you have good facilities to can stay alone at home and not interact with other family members and friends, and be able to have your own ablution facilities, bathroom facilities, dining facilities, then we are happy with that, as long as you are not having any major symptoms, and there are people who have recovered, finished 14 days, recovered, end up with no symptoms without seeing a hospital. But the doctor has to be supervising, so that immediately you develop symptoms which are worrying, to say you may become serious, then you must be taken to hospital. So that is basically our policy. But on the other hand, if it is clear that within your home circumstances, there is no way in which you can self-isolate at home, because there's no way you can have your own room, your own ablution, your own dining, and no interaction with the rest of family, then we have to assist you to get you, even if you're not having serious symptoms, into an isolation facility which is operated by the health department. So I don't even understand why AfriForum had to go to court, because that's how we operate.
Your response, Monique?
Well, I think the importance of civil rights organizations and institutions that oppose autocratic and irrational decisions made by government has become increasingly clear during this lockdown. When the government abuses its power and tries to bully the public by violating people's rights, AfriForum will stand up against it to the benefit of everyone in the country. According to the United Nations, South Africa's lockdown regulations are toxic, and it seems that regulations are no longer about the fight against the coronavirus for the government, but has rather generated into an attempt to promote the ANC's own communist agenda. So AfriForum's application was based on the fact that the regulations are unconstitutional, irrational and illegal, and the regulations determined that, among other, that everyone who tested positive for COVID-19, regardless of whether they show symptoms, could be put in government isolation facilities. So the regulations would have given the state the power to force people without their permission into quarantine, even under circumstances where the person may be able to effectively self-isolate. And it would consequently have given law enforcers and the state too much power under the guise of combating the spread of the virus.
Monique Tout from AfriForum, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. You're watching ENCA. More news for you after this.